my name is Michael Kaiser.
And I'm John Wilson.
And welcome to what will be the first of a sub-series of our show, Make Ours Marvel, that we will be calling Not Comics.
Yeah, where we talk about Marvel stuff, but it's not comics. And so we don't really have an organized way of approaching this, but we're talking about like movies, TV shows, that sort of thing. And definitely movies as they come out.
Right. That was kind of the what spawned all this. Is we're all excited about Avengers Infinity, and then we thought, hey, we have a Marvel podcast. We should dedicate an episode to it. But then we were kind of like, but we don't want to like drag down the comic discussion. So now we're kind of making it just a sort of a separate deal that you can choose to skip or pick and choose when you want to listen to it. It's not quite in the same vein as the other episodes. Right.
And we're kind of putting this out of order. Like whenever you hear our recordings, you're hearing episodes we recorded weeks and months ago. This is something that's actually rather recent. Yeah. So if you're unaware, there was a Marvel movie recently called Avengers Infinity War, and we've both seen it. And it's been out for a couple weeks now as this episode hits. So probably if you heard of it and you want to see it, you will have done so. If you haven't, you should not be listening to the show. What's that?
I was going to say, John has seen it like 58 times. As of this recording, it came out last Thursday night, right?
Yeah.
So it hasn't been that long. I've seen it. I have a wife and kids and stuff, and apparently they're not as cooperative as John's because I had to wait till Monday to see it. So I saw it like 5 days ago for the first and only time.
So the secret is, or the sort of funny thing about my seeing it was that the kids and I had tickets for Friday after school because my daughter had a choir performance on Thursday night. And we usually go to see things on Thursday night because, it's Thursday night. And we couldn't go see it Thursday night, so we were going to go see it Friday after school. And I was trying to keep my eyes off the internet. Anytime I saw Avengers, I immediately looked away. And I saw somebody, there was somebody on Twitter that for whatever reason they were responding to some conversation about this. And usually this person is talking about Batman v Superman, which is why I follow him, because that's like his main topic of conversation. But he was talking about Avengers Infinity War, but without saying the name, he said like it had too many jokes in it or something like that. For all the death involved, there were too many jokes. And I was like, I don't want to hear your criticisms before I've seen the movie.
Right.
And then somebody else, and Zachy, if you're listening to this, sorry to call you out, bro. Love you. But he had said that, the fact that the movie is a cliffhanger shouldn't be a surprise. And I was like, I didn't want to know that it was a cliffhanger. So I was already starting to see things I didn't, want to know. And so I'm sitting there kind of sad on Thursday, and my wife says, honey, the kids are in bed. You should just go see the movie. And I was like,
yeah,
really? They're like, yeah. So my wife's an enabler, and I went and saw it at 10:30 on Thursday night.
That's awesome. I should have done the same thing by myself at least once first. But yeah, it's like the internet, it's almost impossible not to see something you don't want to see anymore. Because I'm thinking like, I'll go on Instagram and just look at pictures. And then like there's autoplay videos happening of, TV spots or something. It's like, I don't want to see this anymore. I am sold. I'm going. I've been sold since the announcement, and usually my practice for these kind of movies is like by the second big, release trailer, I tell myself don't watch anything else, no more clips on talk shows, don't even watch talk shows. I don't even want to see them as actors or anything, I just swear off all that stuff. I didn't watch any of the Conan or Late Night or Fallon or any of those things. I still haven't. Because it's like, to me, it's like, I just want to go in there in the zone of these are these characters. They're not like Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. or whatever. But yeah, you're scrolling through Twitter or something and something will just autoplay, and it's super frustrating. So you either have to just swear off the internet altogether or go ahead and be spoiled, I guess.
Yeah, it is frustrating. And the end result of that is that whenever I went to school on Friday and kids were saying stuff or threatening to say stuff, I was playing defense against, like, for the sake of other kids who hadn't seen it.
Oh, right, yeah.
Which means I was still trying to teach life lessons of don't be a jerk and spoil movies for people, but I wasn't as, like, personally, emotionally invested in it. Like, if they said something and spoiled something, I could be annoyed with them as their teacher and not, like, really annoyed with them as a fellow fan who's now been spoiled.
So speaking of spoilers, obviously, just as a warning, that's not necessary. We are going to be spoiling the heck out of this movie on this episode. So if you haven't seen it, it's a podcast. You can hit pause and come back after you've seen it. It'll still be there. But yeah, we're not going to tiptoe around anything. Full on spoilers.
And just if you are the sort of person who would open the Avengers Infinity War discussion special without having seen the movie first and be annoyed if we spoil it, if that's your move, I don't understand you.
Yeah, me neither. But we got to help them out where we can. So,
so I don't know if you did this, but
go ahead.
Once they shoved the spear through. Was it Heimdall who died first, or was it Loki who died first?
Loki, I think.
So they kill Loki and they shove a spear through Heimdall. Both of those things happen.
Mm-hmm.
I immediately started keeping a count. I was like, okay, that's 2 deaths. We're gonna keep counting this, and I expected to get significantly higher. Turns out by the end there are only 3 significant deaths before half the universe dies.
Right. Yeah, I was expecting more deaths than we got too. Actually, when they killed Loki, who I think was the first death, I kind of thought to myself, I wonder if he'll show up later in this movie. Because, it's Loki. Is he really dead? I don't know. He's already faked it. Right. He's faked it too many times for me to believe it. But, Heimdall, I'm not sure how he would come back necessarily. So that was crazy.
So
that's a big kicker. Starts off kind of like Transformers the movie, let's attack this ship and kill everybody on it. And we're just like, wow, this is the beginning. This is the first 5 minutes.
Right.
That was really intense.
It's worth pointing out that there's a line of dialogue dropped later that half of the Asgardians were killed. So theoretically, Valkyrie is still out there somewhere. And possibly the Planet Hulk characters from Thor Ragnarok are still out there somewhere. We don't really know.
Right. I'm glad they said that, because I was thinking in Thor Ragnarok, they made this big deal that Asgard isn't a place. It's where you are. Home is where your ship is, I guess. And then it's they seemingly wiped out the entirety of Asgard in this first moment. But yeah, apparently half of them got away. So hopefully there can be an Asgard somewhere else someday.
And then we go to Earth, and it's Iron Man's turn. And, okay, so here's something that bothers me about Iron Man.
Okay.
Is Pepper Potts' storyline.
Uh-huh.
In Civil War, they were on the outs.
They were.
And in Homecoming,
they're on the end.
Which takes place, within a few short weeks of Civil War, they're back together again. And Avengers Infinity War, they're getting married. So I realize that we are not focusing on Iron Man's story, but I kind of wish we had a little bit more narration or something on what exactly is going on with him, because I feel like he's coming strung along.
I kind of like that, even though we haven't had any particular movie that focuses on Iron Man in a while, that he still has stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
We don't necessarily have to see it. To me, it's like if I'm reading Avengers and he has a thought bubble about how he and Pepper Potts broke up, and I go, oh, okay, they broke up, check. But if you're reading Iron Man, you know how they broke up, why they broke up, whether they're really broken up, whatever. And we're just not getting Iron Man. So we're getting these little hints of him living his life between movies or during movies, but without actually having to see what's going on. I mean, I could totally imagine them breaking up and not breaking up and breaking up and not breaking up. No problem.
Okay, yeah.
Because they did that in Iron Man 2. They kind of sort of broke up but didn't. And then he said, he's giving up being Iron Man, and that made her happy. And then, obviously by Civil War, he's not giving up being Iron Man because of Avengers 2. So, and then she probably just got over it, because they always do that in comics, right? I can't date a cop, but I really love you, so I guess I'll date a cop kind of stuff.
And it has the unfortunate side effect of kind of diminishing Pepper's character, because she is a supporting cast of Tony Stark, and we're only getting snippets of Tony Stark's life, so we're only getting it very surface level Pepper Potts right now. And she did such a great job in those 3 films. I wish we were seeing more, but like you said, this is not Iron Man's movie, and his supporting cast are lucky to show up. And
she's faring better than Jane Foster or Betty Brant. So, Betty Ross.
Yeah. Who does not exist anymore, basically.
Gosh, he's in love with someone else completely. No mention of her at all. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, that he would go for Tasha. I'm sorry, for Nat. She's not Tasha. Yeah. She's Nat. He would go for Nat without, word one about Betty. and her dad
Yeah.
showed up in friggin'
Yeah.
Civil War.
He wasn't there though. But yeah. But what do you think about Thanos just like owning the Hulk? I guess he already had 2 stones by that point, so you could argue that's how he did it. But it was pretty scary to see like Hulk get throat punched and then like fall to his knees practically, you know?
Right. Base level Thanos is not, I mean, he's super strong, but he's not that super strong. So it took the 2 stones for him to beat the Hulk. Whereas without the stones, Captain America was able to hold his arm up.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the movie, whenever he's fighting Cap, none of the stones
yeah.
are glowing whenever he swings a punch at Cap.
Yeah.
And so Cap was able to like fend off the punch.
Well, I think in the comics and movies are 2 different things, obviously. But I think in the comics, he can go toe-to-toe with Hulk. I don't know if he would win, but he's one of the few characters who could probably at least last a comic book fighting the Hulk. So with 2 stones, it's like, forget about it, I guess. I was trying to think, and maybe this is a dead end, but like, okay, Thanos had 1 stone already, and I can't remember the ending of what movie that was where he like took it.
It was actually not in the movie. They mentioned it briefly. He went to the planet from the first Guardians film, Xandar, where the Nova Corps is from, and took it from them.
So the end of the movie was just him putting on the glove, right?
Right.
There was like one end credit scene where he's like, if you got to do something right, you got to do it yourself or whatever, and he put on the glove.
I want to say that was the end of Thor: The Dark World.
Okay.
Where he
but he didn't have any stones.
Yeah, he didn't have any stones. Just went and got the glove from their vault.
Okay, so let's trace that then. That vault, that was the stone that they used to defeat what's-his-face in Guardians of the Galaxy 1, right? And what stone was that? Do we know? Because I kind of forgot already.
The Power Stone.
Okay, so he had got the Power Stone from Xandar off camera.
Right.
And then in the very beginning of this movie, he kills half the Asgardians and Heimdall and Loki for the quote-unquote Tesseract, which is the one that kicked off the Avengers and all that, or actually kicked off in Captain America First Avenger.
Right.
And that was the Power Stone.
That was the Space Stone.
Oh, okay. Right.
So
Power Stone was Xandar.
And space from the Tesseract.
Okay. So see, I'm already messed up. And then we got, obviously, the time from Stephen Strange.
Yeah, that was one of the last
Doctor Strange. Okay, I'm just trying to count all. How many are there? 6, right?
6.
Okay, so that's time. That's 3. Space he gets, or soul he gets on the Soul Planet, which we will talk about in a second, because I got some things to say about that. But that happens in this movie. He gets the soul.
Right.
And then what other ones does he get? He gets
Reality he got from nowhere. The Collector, that was delivered to the Collector by Thor and
by Thor's people.
Yeah, by Thor's people.
As an end credit. But didn't that seem like that was the Power Stone, or that was the Tesseract they were delivering?
That was the ether from Thor: The Dark World.
Oh, so that was a stone?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I always thought the one they were delivering to Collector was the same one that they got from Avengers, but I guess that was 2 different ones.
Yeah.
So that explains that. So that's 5, right?
Right.
And then obviously the gem on Vision's head is the last one.
Right. And the reason that they didn't keep the Reality Stone on Asgard with the Tesseract is they didn't want to have 2 Infinity Stones so close together, which is actually the first time the MCU says Infinity Stones.
Right. That is exactly what they said. That makes perfect sense now. Okay. What was the one? So what's the one on Vision's forehead? Obviously
that
not
is
soul.
the mind.
Mind. Okay. So now we've tracked all 6 and my brain is sorted. But okay. So yeah, Iron Man, Pepper Potts back again. She says, hey, you really need to stop putting yourself in danger. He says, no problem, baby. They're planning a wedding, by the way. And then that makes Stephen Strange, Doctor Strange, open a portal and appear and invite him for more danger.
Yeah, no more surprises. Promise. No surprises. Right. Doctor Strange surprises.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of poignant on a rewatch because, he's up on the spaceship and he's talking to Pepper and she's like, are you up there on that ship? Get back here right now. And he's like, I will as soon as this is done. I'll be right back as soon as this is done. And then we don't even know if Pepper survived the movie.
We don't.
Oh, gosh.
What was I going to say? So did you feel like any fun, nerdy feelings when, like, the first crossover happens? Because essentially, like, I mean, we've had crossovers for the Avengers because they all had their own individual movies, but that was to make the Avengers. Now we're like having Doctor Strange talk to Tony Stark, which I think is maybe the first like outside of the Avengers thing to happen. I was kind of having a little out of body experience with that.
No, it was cool. I don't know if it's the first time it's happened. It was the first time it happened in the movie. Like all the pieces start coming together in the movie, and that's Tony Stark and Doctor Strange. And yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, how they hate each other and all that. That was cool. I'm positive next movie they're going to call each other like, you know, Mustache Bros or whatever they do, the Goatee Brothers or something like that. They're going to have to bond over that. They have to.
Once Doctor Strange is no longer dead.
Yes. Well, you know he won't be dead.
Okay, we can come back to that because there are things.
Yeah.
But that was cool. That was neat to see. And then they start fighting. It's Tony and it's Doctor Strange and Wong. And then Spider-Man shows up. And that little trio ends up going off to fight, you know, Thanos and on the ship. And that was neat because it's the Ditko trio.
Oh, wow. I never even thought of that. That is pretty cool.
Ditko did Spider-Man. Ditko did Doctor Strange. And Ditko didn't do a lot of Iron Man, but he did do the first red and yellow armor.
Yeah.
Jack Kirby had him stumping around in, you know, buckets.
And also what happens during that scene is Hulk won't come out.
Yeah.
Which totally blows my mind because they trick us with the trailer.
What do the trailers say?
The trailer has the Hulk in it.
Now, they filmed 3 and 4 as a block, and I'm pretty sure that some of the trailer was from 4.
It's all of them in Wakanda running to the aliens to attack them straight out of this movie, and Hulk is running with them. Unless it happens again, like in part 2, maybe. But it seemed like straight up, you know, there's Steve Rogers with his 2 new vibranium thingies, and he's leading the charge, and they're all going towards the shield, and Hulk is like right behind them. So it's like, did they just blow some money for this trailer just to totally like throw us off our game? Because that's pretty awesome if they did that.
Yeah. And well, there was that one trailer shot where like they're all running toward the camera, and like Captain America with his epic beard is right in the middle of them. And I don't know if we ever got that shot.
Okay, well, see, that could be. Maybe you're right. Maybe there'll be a big war in the second one. But it sure looked like the whole Wakanda war thing to me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if they did it to screw with us, or if they did it with the intention of having Hulk in it and then changing their mind, or what. But he is not in this movie other than the beginning when he gets his butt kicked by Thanos, and then he refuses to come out the rest of the film. Which, by the way, what's your theory on that?
That he got spanked real hard and doesn't want to again.
Okay, that's my theory too. I was wondering if anybody else had anything else. I mean, that's pretty much the only thing I could think of. There's really no other reason, right?
Hulk lost his first fight after being like an epic champion of space for years. He got spanked hard by Thanos, and he's done. Yeah, he won't come out. So that was kind of fun. But then it also tricks you with the trailer too. You think Hulkbuster, oh, that's Tony out there fighting, but nope. It's Bruce Banner piloting that son of a whatever. So yeah, that was cool. Little things like little assumptions I had that turned out to be untrue. But it did give Ruffalo a chance to be himself more, which I realize I like. And that's actually been a big part of all the films he's been in, is his chance to be himself a lot and not just the Hulk all the time. So there have been different plot reasons in each film for Ruffalo to spend most of his time out there. Happily, it's not the fact that the Hulk just gets in the way whenever Bruce Banner is really trying to save the day.
No. I think Ruffalo's a great Bruce Banner. I can't decide if I want to see him get his own movie or not. They always talk about that. Part of me is like, just let him be, how he's doing it. It's cool. Like, do we have to get into it? But another part of me thinks that he could maybe nail that, so.
No, he could definitely nail it. I think it's a rights issue. I think there's some Universal Studios rights with the Hulk.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what I haven't looked up details on that, but that's what I've heard.
See here, because here in my head, and this is completely based on nothing, I was just like, wouldn't it be cool if like the Green Hulk continues to refuse to come out, and then so they like go into Bruce Banner's head to like have him talk it out with that, and then like the Gray Hulk's there, and he's like, I'll come out, and so like now there's a Mr. Fix-It. And then they can make a Mr. Fix-It movie. That'd be fun.
Oh, dog. I would love that.
That would be awesome, right?
Yeah, play with the Hulk. That would be neat.
You'd have to do that more with his own movie because that's just too much Hulk otherwise. But yeah, anyway, that's what I was fantasizing about. I'm assuming he's going to come back and be a pivotal part of part 2, but we'll see.
there's a lot of the film that I don't really have a whole lot to say about. I love Spider-Man in this film,
Yeah, good.
but there's not a whole lot to talk about with all that. He gets the Iron Spider suit. That's
Yes,
really cool. I
very.
loved the effects of him like pulling the talons out and using them at the various times. That was really neat.
Yes.
Um,
Makes you think that Iron Man should just give every Avenger a suit. You know? Then they could all have these amazing options. But
yep,
they could
there's
all have their
everyone's
Gal
suit. He gets
Friday.
the Hulk, and the Hulk just still has pants.
Yeah, right. That'd be funny if the Hulk had like a little like female robot talking in his head though. Might confuse him. But so do you like I know we're not talking about Homecoming or this isn't the first appearance of Spider-Man, but I have heard because the internet is very rarely negative, but I have heard that some Spider-Man fans are not happy with him being skewed young again.
Mm,
Are you cool with that? Because
yeah,
he's
I
young in
mean,
this. He's young in this. They do the whole like, "Hey guys, have you ever heard of that old movie Aliens?" You know,
right.
that kind of joke. That's hilarious to me. But yeah, do you like that, or does that bother you?
No, I can dig it. I mean, my only thing is not against Tom Holland, but I just have a bit of nostalgia for the Andrew Garfield stories, and that
Okay.
Andrew Garfield's third film is never going to happen.
No.
They really, you know, they really knocked it out of the park with Amazing Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2, and the subplots of the trilogy really built in the second one to promise a third one that is never going to happen. And
Right.
so, even though I like Tom Holland as Spider-Man, it's always going to be a little bit of yeah, but that other movie's never going to happen. But as far as him being young, I mean, one of the comics I spent so much of the first decade of the 2000s reading was Ultimate Spider-Man.
Right.
Um, I spent so much time reading that during my early return to comics. I say your first decade of the 2000s, I mean 2008 through whenever I stopped reading Ultimate Spider-Man, like around 2013. Um,
Yeah.
but I read the heck out of that comic so many times. That's my Spider-Man. So this
Yeah.
is kind of that Spider-Man.
Well, it's interesting you say Andrew Garfield because his first movie, he's in high school also,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't really play him like they're playing this Spider-Man. This Spider-Man to me seems like he legit is young.
Yeah.
And not I'm not going to say he's stupid because he's not stupid, but maybe unwise is a nice word to say.
Yeah, just
because
mentally immature a little bit.
because he's only 16.
Right.
And they really seem to play up on that more than they did with Toby or Andrew, other than the big like, you know, letting Uncle Ben die as a big screw up,
Mm-hmm.
which Peter Parker has to have. They all kind of played like, you know, mature, responsible men. And I like this Spider-Man. He's a lot more like a boneheaded kid who is going to get things wrong.
And that I don't know, that just it's only his first 28 issues that he's in high school in the original Amazing Spider-Man series.
Yeah.
But it seems to be that any story that starts the Spider-Man adventure is going to start with him in high school.
It has to. I
And it
mean,
just
he's
is going to
he's
go
a
from there.
teenage superhero. I mean, that's it. Yeah. I mean, all these characters started in their beginning, so it would kind of make less sense if Spider-Man just came along at 30.
Right.
I don't know. Anyway, I like it, but
And I guess kind of his origin story is steeped in poor decision making.
right, yeah. Yeah, that doesn't hurt either.
So that goes well with a young kid. I mean, obviously adults make poor decisions too, otherwise humanity would be a much better place to live. But you know, it just kind of plays with the high school immaturity more easily.
And I really I think there's been negativity on this. I should say that I haven't really gone and looked at reviews of this movie or what people say of this movie because I don't really care. I'm happy with the movie and I don't really need anybody to tell me why I shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, you're browsing around and you see things, usually Twitter these days for me. And I think I saw something about someone complaining how he died. Because, you know, for those who don't know, half Thanos wins, half the universe disappears, essentially, or is killed, however you want to. They don't really die. They kind of just vanish, I guess. I don't know if that means they unexist or what. But Spider-Man is pretty much the only one who kind of like is upset about it.
Yeah, well, it takes longer for him.
Well, yeah, and some people seem to think that that wasn't very cool or heroic or whatever for him to be scared of disappearing. But that really like punched me in the chest. I really liked that performance.
Yeah, I don't know what else you would expect. I mean, is he going to say, is he going to like, you know, spine up straight, Iron Man, I'm dying. You know, I love you, Uncle Tony. or something, and I don't know what that's
Oh,
supposed to be.
oh, that is so. Since you said Uncle Tony, you reminded me. That is so good. One of the things I love about this young Spider-Man is that like he's got this surrogate father uncle thing going with Tony Stark, who has huge dad issues. Where he had a dad who nothing was ever good enough, and he's clearly just putting that all on Peter. You know,
Hmm.
like in Homecoming, he's like, everything you're doing is wrong and you suck, and I don't want to, I don't want to give you anything. Every once in a while, he'll give him a compliment, but clearly it's just like he doesn't know how to deal with this kid. And now in this movie, he was really upset that Peter followed him onto the spaceship even after he told him not to. And he's there, and next movie, Tony is not going to be happy about the fact that he had to watch this kid that is pretty much there because of him in a way, like disappear in front of his eyes.
So my daughter's
That's going to be
boyfriend
awesome.
saw this movie, and then she
Uh-huh.
woke up to like his text essay about the film.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things she shared with me is that Peter took longer to die because he's one of the few characters that has a regenerative ability. Now, I'm not sure how much sense that makes because this is an act of the Infinity Stone, not an act of like disease or whatever.
Yeah,
He's being
I don't
wiped
know.
from existence, not slowly killed by some plague. Anyways, but also since he has his spider sense and other heightened sensory experiences that he talks about in Homecoming, he's feeling it 1,000% more than most people are.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's taking him longer. He's feeling it more, which is why he has such a slow, anguished death. Maybe that's what they meant. Maybe it's just reading into it. But he did take a lot longer to die than everybody else.
I guess I didn't notice that. I don't know. Like, he's the only one who talked. That's for sure.
Well, it's like,
Everybody else
you
just
look
kind
over
of.
at Bucky, he's like, Cap, and he looks down, and within 3 seconds, he's gone. Whereas Peter has enough time to say, I don't feel so good, and to like grab
Well,
onto Tony and hold him, and they, then fall on the ground, and Tony cradles his head, and then he slowly, turns away and dies. It's like 30 seconds or a minute of Peter dying. It's
where,
crazy.
where did Thanos cast his spell? What planet?
Oh, do you think it took long to have to hit them?
Why not? Maybe there's a range or something.
Could
It had
be.
to it cascaded out from his glove. I'm just making that up. There, I solved everybody's problem. To me, I was much more interested in the performance and like, how sad that scene was than I was sitting there going oh, that took 45 seconds. That's stupid. I'm not into it.
No. It didn't take me out of it. I was just trying to kind of explain it. But Tom Holland kills it.
Yes.
Like that scene broke Lily.
Really? Is that the
Yeah.
one? So that's the only spoilers I got was the Wilson family. Facebook twice that something made them cry, which isn't really a spoiler other than something is sad in the movie, which is good. There should
Right.
be something sad in a big movie like this. So was that the thing you guys were talking about? Was Tom?
Yeah, it was my second time to see it, but the first time I saw it was super late at night. I was just kind of watching it. Second time I allowed the feelings to feel more. And once people started dying, I started to kind of like, crumble inside. Of course, my emotions are like this roiling ocean just underneath the skin of my body. And they come out really easily. But Lily's not so much. Lily tends to be pretty hardcore when it comes to movies.
Mm-hmm.
But for her, she said that watching Peter die just broke her to pieces. And during the credits, she was just sobbing, and I was holding her hand, and
Wow.
Keenan was hugging her, and I mean, I do my dad cry, where I'm like sitting there, like silently crying because I don't want to bother my kids or people around us, so the tears are streaming, and I'm like controlling my breathing to like let myself cry, but not make noise, and yeah.
I find that I'm much more emotional the second time I watch a movie that I like. Maybe because you know it's coming.
Uh-huh.
Versus the first time, it's like everything's new and you're kind of just going along with this ride and you don't know where you're being taken. And then it's like the second time you watch, go, oh, here's that part where it's going to be sad, and then
Just
your
let
body
yourself be sad.
your body reacts accordingly or something. Yeah. But speaking of good performances, I want to talk about Chris Hemsworth.
As Thor?
Yes. Well, that's the only thing he played in this film. But so Thor Ragnarok, I liked, and we will talk about that some other day, probably, maybe. Who knows? But I felt in that movie like they figured out that Hemsworth is a funny guy, Like maybe they all watch Ghostbusters or something.
Right.
And they just undercut every instance of drama with humor in that film, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there was no scene where they built up drama that doesn't get kind of wrecked by a stupid joke, right?
Right.
And at first it's funny, and after a while it's like, okay, you could shut up now. You can let me feel sad about Asgard dying without having that stupid rock guy make dumb comments, right? Or whatever. So this movie, I'm thinking, oh, please don't do that. Please don't just make him jovial Thor again, because of all characters of the Marvel Universe, Captain America, Thor, probably the least likely to tell a joke. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not to say they don't have a sense of humor, but they need to have some gravitas and be the heroes and all that stuff. So Thor meets Guardians of the Galaxy for the first time. They save his life. It's a great scene, but it's also a very funny scene, as it should be, because it's the Guardians of the Galaxy. Mm-hmm. But Thor's funny in it too, and I'm thinking, oh no, they're doing it again. He's just going to be like this jokey guy the whole movie. But then they cut to him and Rocket in that spaceship on their way to, I don't know what planet that's called, Forge Planet or something like that.
Yeah, Nardelamir or something. It's the Asgardian word for the home of the dwarves.
Really large dwarves, yes. And Rocket asks him something like, your dad's dead, your mom's dead, your brother's dead, are you in this for revenge? And he plays the scene so beautifully. Like that got my tears rolling a little bit too. If he listens to this podcast, kudos, man, that was good acting, because he talks about like how it's kind of about revenge, but he's also kind of just sad and he's angry, and like all those emotions are going through in that scene. I just thought it was really good.
And he puts a smile on it and tries to act like he's handling it lightly.
Right.
So it's almost like a good transition scene from the comedy back to the actual real stuff. I felt like this movie did a good job of keeping the characters true to their tone.
Yeah.
And yet then slowly bringing all those tones into a cohesive spot.
Yeah.
Like you go from, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, New York City, fighting things out, giant space wheels in the sky, to space.
Yeah.
Guardians
really
of the
fast.
Galaxy. Yeah. Jamming out to whatever song that was. And everything's a laugh a minute for a while, because that's what Guardians of the Galaxy is.
Right.
But slowly over the course of the film, all the tones kind of come together into a serious dramatic adventure. And yeah, I think they did a really good job with that.
I mean, that was the one I try and go into movies with a positive attitude, but that was the one thing itch in the back of my negative skull was like, they're going to have to do a lot. There's going to be so many characters in this movie, and they're going to have to accomplish a lot. Because let's face it, we knew this is part 1 of 2. So at the end of this one, Thanos has to win. And traditionally, what that means, if we're going by the comics, is he gets all the stones and he wipes out half the universe, right? So I was just thinking, like, are they going to be able to juggle all those balls and make all that happen? And they totally did. Mm-hmm. Like, no problem. I really didn't feel that. How long is it? 2.5 hours? I didn't feel it.
No, it does not feel like a 2.5 hour movie.
No, there was no like lulls and it also didn't feel like there was too much going on all at once, I mean, it was really well paced and everybody was juggled and all the characters seemed to be, what we expect of them while still able to interact with each other. It was really well done. Yeah.
And it's funny because it's called Infinity War, but it's not about the Infinity War story. And it's really not even about the Infinity Gauntlet story. It's about the build-up to the Infinity Gauntlet. This is kind of Thanos' quest, in a way.
It is until the end, yeah.
Yeah, well, now it's been a while, but if I recall correctly, him snapping his fingers like that, is that in the Infinity Gauntlet?
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's how it starts, though.
Yeah, that's the first stroke of the story, whereas it's the last stroke of this film.
Right.
So now in the next film, we have to, kind of come together and fight back. Now, I think we should start talking about some of the ramifications and some of the fallout of this. And I'd like to start with Gamora.
Okay.
So first off, Gamora kind of takes on the role of Mistress Death in this story. Like, she is the one Thanos lives for. She is kind of the one he's doing all of this for, even though he's also doing it because he feels like it's his moral imperative. But he loves Gamora. He loves Gamora with all of his heart, and he wants to have a better universe for her. He took her when she was small, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, she's the one whose life he sacrifices in order to get the Soul Stone. Well, if those of you
Right.
who don't know about the Soul Stone, in the comics, the Soul Stone is actually the house for an entire realm where
Right.
people live as their souls.
Right.
Adam Warlock spends the entire 1980s in the Soul Stone.
Right.
So in this movie, he kills Gamora in order to get the Soul Stone. And at the end of the movie, when he's in the Soul Stone realm, Gamora is there
Mm-hmm.
as her young self. And it
Right.
has been theorized in conversations I was having with a friend that Gamora is not entirely dead, that she
So
actually is still alive in the Soul Stone. And that's going to help to save the day at the end of the next movie.
I was going to say, so instead of she's not necessarily death, I think she's more like going to play the role of Adam Warlock in this movie.
Yeah, sort of a combination of those two. Yeah.
Yeah. So for those who have never read Infinity Gauntlet, the reason it's pretty much the same idea. He collects all these stones, but the reason he wipes out half the universe is in tribute to the entity Death, because there is an entity in the Marvel Universe, in the comic world, called Death, and he's in love with Death. And in order to impress her, he wipes out half the universe, which doesn't impress her, and blah, blah, blah. And that's kind of where the story goes. But in this, obviously, they don't do the whole Death entity thing. Instead, he just wants to destroy half the universe because of resources, which I liked. I mean, I don't know. I really liked Josh Brolin's performance
Oh,
as
yeah.
Thanos. I thought it was really good. Like, because there were times when I actually felt for the guy a few times. And you shouldn't really feel for him because he's the meanest, evilest person in the world. I mean, he always reminded me that he was evil eventually. But there were a couple scenes, usually involving Gamora, where I thought, oh, he's maybe not so bad. And then, he'd go and torture Nebula or something. Oh, yeah, he is bad. Never mind. I forgot. But I kind of like, I don't think we should wipe out half the planet Earth to solve problems. But at the same time, you kind of think, well, that would solve some problems. I don't know. So maybe it's not a bad idea.
I'm here for humanizing villains.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very postmodern trope of storytelling is to make your villains sympathetic. The villainous villain who's villain because he's villainous
Mm-hmm.
is not
That's old.
really a thing anymore.
No, and it shouldn't be. They shouldn't think of themselves as villains, really.
No, everyone is by necessity the protagonist of their own story.
Mm-hmm.
And Thanos is the protagonist of this story. And from a certain point of view, this story is over.
Yeah.
Thanos has accomplished his mission.
Mm-hmm.
He has gone home, and he is having his day of rest. I mean,
yeah.
Everything that's been going on since the Avengers 2012 has come to a close. He's done.
Yeah. Yeah. So here, as you were saying, Gamora is in the Soul Stone,
Mm-hmm.
right? Let's just assume that's true, because that's what I thought too. So it seems pretty likely that's what's going on there.
Mm-hmm.
So you got that, and did you notice that his glove was totally burnt out after he performed his miracle?
Yes. How did you read that?
Okay, so I read that as like maybe it's not as godly as we would think it is, and then that feat was awfully big,
Right.
even for the Infinity Stones. So maybe, I don't know if he broke it, but maybe he like hurt it. And you'll also notice when he went home to rest that he was still limping from God. Oh, Holy Thor. From Holy Thor, slamming his God hammer spear thing
Axe.
into him. Axe, yeah. That's the right word. An axe. He was still limping and breathing shallow.
And it looked like his left arm was all scarred up.
Right. So it's like if that gauntlet was still working, you'd think he would just snap his finger and be all fully healed and fine, right? But it was obviously working enough for him to teleport, unless he has some other means of teleportation, which he could.
Well, I think the way that the story spins the gauntlet is they said it was a weapon forged to help somebody wield multiple Infinity Stones. Because theoretically, unless you're a super powerful being, you can't even touch an Infinity Stone without dying. Certainly the Power Stone, which, being powerful, people can't touch.
Right.
And so having the gauntlet to have all the stones on it, so you can wield all of them at one time, and then I could see why something like that, where something mortable and invincible and tangible, like a forged gauntlet, would crumple under the weight of that much power.
So you think it's the tool holding the gems that broke? Yeah, that could be. I mean, he does hold the gems in his hand, but I don't know if he was able to do that because he already had a couple.
Right.
Let's just say that's why. Because even what's his name from the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, Ronan. Even he couldn't hold it for more than a few seconds before he had to put it on his hammer as the way to wield it. So yeah, that makes sense that the giant dwarf's weapon just broke under the pressure.
And Peter Dinklage, that was a big surprise. I haven't caught a single whiff of him being in this movie.
I know. That was really awesome.
Okay, so yeah, Gamora in the Soul Stone, I think, is important.
Yes.
The idea that this is the end, I think, is also important because I feel like, and the people like Kevin Feige and other people who've made these movies are sort of have said a few times, you really need to take the end of the Russo brothers. That's who it is. Mm-hmm. Have said you need to take the ending of this movie more to heart. That these deaths are deaths. Don't just think we're going to go undo. But I don't really buy that. And also, Marvel has used that line before.
Well, it's hard to buy it when Spider-Man has an upcoming film.
There is that. We have and I'm kind of sad that movie's been announced in light of the fact that they have not announced anything else. Nothing has been announced about the upcoming Marvel films that are coming after Avengers Forever or whatever they're going to call the fourth one. I like the name Avengers Forever.
That would be awesome. Great miniseries, by the way.
Yeah. I was rambling about something. I was talking too much, I'm sure, but
death.
Yeah. So let's think about for a second. What if this were the end of all those characters?
Well, that would not be great because I feel like the Guardians have more movies they could do, and they just wiped out all of them but Rocket.
Right.
I know that I was really convinced that Chris Evans or Captain America was going to die in this movie. I was sure of it. I saw that last trailer they did, and Cap was standing there wrestling with Thanos, and Thanos kind of looks at him like, wow, this guy's really brave and stuff. And then I thought the next scene would just be him snapping his neck in half or something like that, right?
I can see Cap dying in the next one. I cannot see Iron Man dying in the next one. I feel like they've played that card.
Right. So we know, based on what Chris Evans has said anyway, that next one is his last movie. And he didn't have to do it, but he wanted to do it because he said it felt like a good way to end it. So what does that mean, kids? I don't know. I kind of hope, and again, Captain America, my favorite character, but I kind of hope he does die. I think that'd be a cool way to end it. I don't want to see him kind of just be go off and retire in Alaska or something dumb like that. I'd rather he go out a hero and die and then have Bucky take over the mantle or something cool. Except Bucky's dead right now too. How's that going to work? But yeah. So I see them undoing the whole, half the world dying thing, half the universe dying.
Me too, because that's the plot of Infinity Gauntlet is undoing the death of half the universe.
So what I think is going to happen, I just made this up right now. Captain America is going to get a hold of the gauntlet, and he's going to wish everybody back, but at the expense of his own life. He's going to blow up. There, I totally made that up. They're not going to listen to me, but that could work.
Well, it's worth pointing out that Nebula is still around, and Nebula has a big role to play in how the comic story, the Infinity Gauntlet, plays out. I think that they have set her up nicely to do that move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, could be that.
And yeah, like I said earlier, they've done the whole, you really got to believe us, man. This is really real. They did that with Superior Spider-Man. When they killed Peter and had Doc Ock take over his body, they were like, this is it. This is how this goes.
Oh, I know. You can never believe that. I have people like when they killed Captain America, I had people calling me on the phone to tell me they were sorry, It's and I'm just like, guys, come on. They'll restore this. Give it a year,
They let it play longer than I expected. They let it play long enough that I started wondering if it was going to get it.
Yeah.
Because Bucky was capped for 2 or 3 years.
But, it always gets undone eventually. But how about the people that are actually dead? So, I don't know. Loki, like we've said, he's already faked his death 1,000 times, and they could easily write some way that he faked his death this time. I don't know about Heimdall. I could see them just not bringing him back, and that's not really an A-lister, so we could get away with him just staying dead. The Vision, you can throw him in a bag of rice and he'll be okay.
I hadn't thought about the Vision.
He might not have any emotions when he comes back.
Yeah, he's all pale now.
But you can rebuild him. Well, he also has a big hole in his chest, but
his head. But they could fix the hole in his head, fix those wires, turn him back on. And they did all the conversation about how like Vision's psychology is like multiple layers of multiple operating systems
Mm-hmm.
integrated somewhat but not completely with the Mind Stone. And so if you remove the Mind Stone, maybe Vision is still there. Maybe even those important parts of him are still there. I think Vision is going to come back to life. And I think that the reason his colors faded away is because they're going to do the Avengers West Coast 1980s, 1990s emotionless Vision who has no colors in the comics.
Right? Star Trek 4. It's going to be Scarlet Witch. Can I ask you a question? Wanda, you used to call me Wanda. Don't you remember? So,
yes, that.
Yeah, that's what they're going to do.
And
that would be
they're going to
awesome.
do the thing where he tries to cook for her and is like going to completely fail. He's going to completely Data the whole thing. Only like not sweet and endearing Data, but like, completely, yeah.
Although they also just get, like you said, they described his brain as very complex. So there is an out. Like he could start out with no memory, and then eventually, like Wally, there could be a spark or something, and it could all come together.
Mm-hmm.
So he could always get his emotions back without getting a reality stone to power him.
Well, at the end of the day, there's this Deus Ex Machina glove floating out there. All they got to do is grab it, turn a green dial in the air, and make all this get undone.
Oh, but not without consequences.
No, there need to be consequences. I agree, but just to say this is all permanent when there is literally a God glove out there.
Oh well, that too. Yeah, I thought you meant just the time stone in general, or specifically. But speaking of that, so what do you think of like he used the time stone to look in the future and see what was it like millions of
15,605 options.
Options and only one works. So clearly we must assume that he traded the time stone for Tony's life because that was the option that worked.
That was the option that worked. So he says this was the only way right before he dies. So theoretically, we are on the path to victory here.
Yeah. Well, gosh, let's hope so. That's going to be a really bummer of a part 2 if it doesn't work out. So we haven't talked enough Captain America. I want to say a couple things about Captain America.
Yeah, talk some Cap. Let's wrap
I'm the worst
Cap.
I'm the worst Captain America fan ever because here's the two things that happened to me when I was watching this movie. One, I'm watching Vision and Scarlet Witch get their butt handed to them, and just when they're about to lose, like the lights dim and flicker and everybody looks around and like a train blows by and there's a silhouette of like perfect male specimen standing there.
And you think Henry Cavill Superman?
It doesn't reveal who it is, and my stupid brain, even though they just literally said like 10 minutes ago that we need to call Steve because he would know how to find Vision, right?
Right.
My brain is racking for who the heck this could be. I went through all the cast of characters and could not think of who it was. And then like that's all in like 2 seconds, of course, because then they throw the staff and he catches it and it's like, oh, duh, that's who it is. And I was so happy. And I got very emotional. Like, I guess you don't have to just get teary-eyed over sad things. You can get teary-eyed over happy things, too. Because it's like, oh, I haven't seen, like, my favorite character on screen in, what, like 2 years? 3 years? However long it's been since Cap 3?
And a Pepsi bottle
2016, maybe? Yeah, I guess I'm spoiled because it was cool to see him again. And then the other dumb Cap thing I did was they go to the Soul Planet, the planet that supposedly has the Soul Gem. And there's like they're greeted by this black specter thing, and it says, I'm here. I'm cursed to guide you. I'm cursed to guide you through this planet or whatever. And I immediately go, oh, that's Hugo Weaving. That's cool that they got Hugo Weaving to voice this spirit. Hugo Weaving, Agent Smith or the guy from Lord of the Rings. And then it cuts to him being the Red Skull, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I forgot Hugo Weaving played the Red Skull. So that was another bonehead on my part.
It's one of those things where like I was trying to figure out why the Red Skull was even there.
I don't understand that either because he didn't get trapped into that gem.
I can't figure it out.
He was in the Tesseract, which is the Power Stone, right?
He held the Tesseract and he like flew away through the ceiling into space. Like the Tesseract opened up space behind him and he got sucked out into it or blown out.
Right. So we always kind of figured he'd come back. But then I completely forgot that he existed altogether because it's been so long.
That's what I was trying. Parts of the movies that kind of felt didn't really make a whole lot of sense. Because
Right.
why would he be on this planet guarding the Soul Stone? But only for the last 50 years, not like for all of eternity or anything.
And why the Soul Stone when that wasn't the stone he was dealing with? So
Right.
that did make me like. That's when I started trying to count on my fingers like where all these gems came from and which ones they were dealing with. And yeah, Tesseract was not the Soul Stone. So whatever. But it was kind of cool to see him anyway.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I don't know.
It would definitely was.
I guess
It was a cool move. Just one
you
that
do-
doesn't really bear much scrutiny.
if you need someone to explain that you have to throw your loved one off a cliff to get the Soul Stone, then why not have it be a dead red or a spirit bodiless red skull, I suppose. But otherwise, yeah, I don't know. Like it was Cap didn't do a lot. I don't feel like well, I mean, he did his Cap stuff,
He did his Cap stuff. He fought a lot.
but he's had 3 movies, so I guess it's cool that like they focused more on other people. I'm glad that they focused on the space people more. It was cool to see him and Buck get back together again, high five, and I like the "I am Groot, I am Steve Rogers" line. That was funny. Yeah, he didn't die though, so I guess maybe next movie he'll die. I'm waiting for it.
Finally seeing Bucky back to being Bucky with his mind all intact and really himself again with his like flowing luscious hair and everything else.
Yeah, I'll get that arm. I'm gonna get that arm. That made me laugh really hard. I'll get that arm.
But I think they're positioning him to take over the Captain America mantle next movie.
I sure hope so. I think that'd be great.
He's gone through his, Winter Soldier arc. Now he's ready to be Cap.
Yeah. I wish that Rocket and Iron Man could have interacted maybe next movie, because I would really like to see Rocket like trip out on Iron Man's armor, or maybe even upgrade it while he's not looking or something.
Right?
That'd be fun. And speaking of his armor, I don't know. Like part of me hates this whole nanotech thing that they introduced in Black Panther.
Right.
It's a little too magical and easy. But then another part of me was cool with Iron Man having it, because it's like, well, if it does exist, then Tony should know how to make it happen. And so, yeah.
It's a little bit like his Extremis outfit from the Extremis era of Iron Man, where he wears basically the full body condom and the suit just kind of comes out of it.
Yeah.
That was a neat idea. Now I don't know. He did the whole modular thing, which was cool.
I like the modular thing. Yeah.
But there's this whole thing with tech nowadays where it just kind of like unfolds out of nowhere.
I know. Which
doesn't make any sort of sense, but
No.
it's just one of those things they do now with tech. It's like special effects. We don't actually have to put that. Star-Lord's helmet doesn't have to be anywhere. He just touches his ear and it grows out of his nose.
And you know what's dumb is I think the first movie to do that was Lost in Space, and nobody likes Lost in Space. But for some reason, we steal that idea that these helmets grow out of your ear or whatever.
Right.
I like the creativity of, initially he had to have all these big mechanical arms like remove and put the armor on him. He had to go home.
Mm-hmm.
And then Iron Man 2, I love that they pulled off the suitcase armor. Not in the same way as the comic, but still. It's
that was a great moment.
Right? And it wasn't like the armor was obviously a less powerful version, but it was just this cool idea of like an on-the-go armor, And then I liked that I was cool with the modular stuff. I loved the idea of like the Iron Man armor just kind of standing there waiting for him to walk back into it, like he did in Iron Man 3 or Avengers 2, where it kind of can go into sentry mode and like it just walks off him, but it's still there. It still exists.
Right.
But yeah, now this new like, Black Panther and Iron Man doing this press a button and things just come out of nowhere is a little low rent to me.
When theoretically it's the highest level of technology. But
Right. It's so high it's become magic, I guess.
Yeah, it's just effects. You're taking advantage of the fact that you're in special effects. There's no actual reality going on here.
Right. There's no creativity or anything. But oh well. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I mean, I really thought this was, like I said before, I think they juggled everything just right. All the characters were just right. They had a lot to accomplish, and they accomplished all of it. I think I'm much more looking forward to part 2, because part 1, in a way, is kind of like you knew what was going to happen, maybe.
Right.
Although I've met a lot of people that were like, how could they end it like that? And I'm just thinking, did you not know it was part 1? I mean, it doesn't say part 1 on the poster, I guess.
Well, they changed their marketing. I mean, it was initially announced as Avengers Part 1 and Part 2, and at some point they're like, I think they wanted to set the expectations for this movie a little bit differently, and that they want people to come to see the next big Avengers movie and take it as a thing and be shocked by the ending. More so than this is part one of two, and it's going to end in a moment, and so are you ready for part two? Whereas instead,
Yeah.
people are walking out of Avengers Infinity War with a terrible, not terrible as in bad choice, but terrible as in emotionally wrecking ending,
Hmm.
and that's the end of the story.
Yeah. My wife hates unhappy endings or ambiguous endings,
Mm-hmm.
even though she's watched Lord of the Rings like 50 billion times. But I guess because all three are out, it's okay. But like, she didn't know that this was a part one. I don't know. I just assumed everybody knew. I didn't really pay attention. And so she's like looking at me after it was over, like, that's it? It's like, what do you mean that's it? There has to be a second part. He had to win. Darth Vader has to win in Empire Strikes Back, or else what are we returning for? You know?
Right. Although, who won at the end of Last Jedi? I mean, I really expect the bad guys to win more at the end of that movie than they did. They didn't really win. But that's another comment. That's another conversation for another podcast.
So, speaking of endings, we didn't talk about the post-credit scene.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was thinking that we could start gearing towards the road from here, and the post-credit scene definitely feeds into that.
Okay.
Because, of course, the post-credit scene is where Nick Fury and Maria Hill, before they get killed by Thanos, he pages Captain Marvel.
Right.
And Captain Marvel is a movie that is coming out next year, that is filming right now.
But that movie takes place in the 90s, I've read.
Right.
So it's probably out of sync with this movie.
So they're setting up the character in Captain Marvel for her to be involved in Avengers Forever.
Right. Okay. But you know what's interesting is while Captain Marvel and Thanos do go hand in hand, thank you, Jim Starlin, it's not really this Captain Marvel. This is not Kree Marvel with Cosmic Awareness Marvel. This is like, what's her face? S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Marvel. I forget her
Carol
name.
Danvers.
Carol Danvers, yes, thank you. Who's been Warbird and Captain Marvel, Binary.
Ms. Marvel.
Yeah, so I don't know, like if it was legit Captain Marvel, I could see like, oh, that's their ace in the hole. He's going to come and he's going to be all cosmically aware and he's going to know how to like defeat Thanos. But she's just like, a really powered soldier. So I don't know if she's going to be like the clincher for defeating Thanos for them.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm super curious to see how they spin her story because you're right. By her very nature, Captain Marvel depends upon Marvel to exist. Now, Marvel is in Captain Marvel, the movie.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Marvel is in that movie. And I've heard, grain of salt maybe it's been confirmed, I don't know, but they're going to kind of base the plot around the Kree Skrull War.
So she originally was Miss Marvel, right?
Ms. Marvel, yeah.
Ms. Marvel. And how did she get her powers? Was it directly influenced by Captain Marvel?
Yes.
Like
so
blood transfusion, something?
In the original Captain Marvel series, Carol Danvers was supporting cast. Marvel was an alien who was masquerading as Walter Latham or something like that. He was a astronaut military bigwig.
Right.
And Carol Danvers was Air Force security on base.
Okay.
She suspected the Marvel of not really being who he was claiming to be, and there were shenanigans with that. There was a hint of a possible love interest that never really developed. And in issue 18 of Captain Marvel, she gets killed.
Okay.
Not killed, but she gets blasted by a bolt from a Kree energy weapon and carried off to be taken care of, and she never is in the book again. Now, very soon after that, the book is canceled twice. It's canceled, brought back for 2 issues, canceled, and then Jim Starlin revives it. When the blast hit Carol Danvers, it did go through Marvel to get to her. And so they used that as the basis in Ms. Marvel of something about his Kree physiology was transferred to her. So she is a blend of human and Kree.
Okay. So yeah, that would be kind of hard to explain that without a Kree person being around, I guess.
Right. So somehow what I'm expecting is Carol Danvers is going to be military. She's going to get caught up in the conflict of the Krees and the Skrulls, and something's going to happen to infuse her with the powers or the aspects of Kree that make them more powerful than you.
Yeah.
Not the blueness,
But
maybe.
but oddly, I don't think all Kree are like that kind of powerful. But I don't know. We don't necessarily have to get into the entire history of Captain Marvel. I'm never sure how that works. Like Super Skrull is more powerful than a Skrull. Captain Marvel is more powerful than most Kree. Thor is more powerful than most Asgardians.
I don't think that Captain Marvel was more powerful than most Kree. I think he's just more powerful than most humans.
Okay, but he had the gauntlets or something that helped. Probably he had those.
That came along when he started swapping bodies with Rick Jones.
Right, but that's when he got cosmic awareness and was able to fly. And
Yeah, he did get the cosmic awareness from Ego, the Living Planet. No, from
it was
the floating eyeball thing.
Eon.
The floating green gop with an eyeball in it.
He was supposed to get the quantum bands to be the protector of the universe, but for some reason he didn't get those. He got something else. And that gave him cosmic awareness and blah, blah, blah. But then later, Quasar got the actual quantum bands that give you the energy manipulation, Green Lantern style, and all that fun stuff. They're both disciples of Eon, though.
Right, and Quasar has Eon in his book.
Yeah.
As a sort of double X kind of.
And Miss Marvel got like permanently absorbed by Rogue, I think, for a while.
Ms. Marvel got the plot shaft, and Chris Claremont was rather pissed about it, as he made very plain in his Avengers Annual 10. But yeah, so Ms. Marvel got depowered for a while, repowered with star powers, became binary, flew around with the Star Jammers. Yeah. I don't know how she got back to being Ms. Marvel in the Lightning Bolt suit again in the 2000s.
Well, she started as Warpath in is it Warpath or Warbird or something like that in Avengers, and she and Tony like had fights about alcoholism or something like that. But then I think like Earth X, or no, not Earth X, whatever it was. House of M wiped everything out, and she got reborn as like this superhero.
That's
legit.
Right. She saw herself as the best possible superhero in the House of M, and coming out of that, she decided that she actually wanted to be that person.
Right. So then she became Captain Marvel instead of Miss Marvel.
She was Ms. Marvel for a while. Captain Marvel came about around 2011 or 12 with the heroes, like the all-new Marvel Now or whatever it's called. And that's when like Bendis brought the original 5 X-Men back, and lots of other really big shifts happened. And Ms. Marvel became Captain Marvel.
I feel like every time we talk like this, there's like the hugest Captain Marvel fan right now listening to us screaming at the radio, like, that's not what happened. You guys are just making this up.
Well, but to boil all that down, so we've got the Captain Marvel movie coming to set her up for her role in Avengers 4. We have the Ant-Man and the Wasp movie, because Avengers 4 has already been filmed. It filmed as a unit with Avengers 3.
Right.
So the Wasp and the Ant-Man and Hawkeye have already done their Avengers filming. They just weren't in Infinity War.
No, but they do mention them.
Yeah, they mention them, and they are going to have a bigger role to play in the next one. And I don't know if Ant-Man and the Wasp, what I would like to see is Ant-Man and the Wasp end with Infinity War.
Yeah, so like it's all about what they're doing when they're under house arrest, I think.
Or maybe the time frame leading up to that.
I think it's what's happening while they're under house arrest or something like that. And then like maybe the end could be one of them disappearing. That'd be fun. Or both, or neither. I don't know.
Or Hank Pym
the whole city. Hank Pym disappearing. That trailer looks awesome.
But
yeah, we'll get to that one.
It's going to be fun. And then there was going to be an Inhumans movie. That didn't happen. And I think it's just Ant-Man and Captain Marvel, and then Avengers 4.
And then Spider-Man.
Which
they shouldn't have announced. But oh well.
I agree.
Too late, guys. Too late. But yeah, I don't know. Great movie. Again, looking forward to the second one where I don't know what's going to happen. But yeah, I think they knocked it out of the park. 10-year anniversary, a lot of pressure. Just like Avengers back in the day when I thought, oh man, I really hope they pull this off, because they really put out a lot of movies leading up to this, and they pulled it off then. They pulled it off now. I think it's good.
Well, I'm gonna throw something at you as part of our whole make this show up as we do it on the microphone.
Okay, hit me.
We have talked about discussing the non-comic stuff, the different TV shows, the different movies, the different all the stuff that Marvel has done. I mean, we could go as far back as the Captain America serials.
Right.
And maybe we could put one of these out every month or two. And maybe we could have an email suggestion of what we cover next.
Sure, except I already know what we're covering next. But after that, yeah.
Okay, what are we covering next?
Deadpool 2, baby.
Oh, yeah, that's this month.
That is this month. So
Yes.
excited. So that's next, guys. Sorry, we're not going to cover, Captain America Serial before Deadpool 2. But, yeah, throw your suggestions. Because I actually think it'd be fun to cover non-MCU stuff, like Deadpool 2, for instance. But, any of the X-Men things or pre all this, cinematic universe stuff. Those Garfield Spider-Mans or even the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans or, I don't know, Hulk TV show. What else did they have? Cartoons?
There were various 90s cartoons. There was the TV show. And I think we could do TV shows by season.
Yeah, I guess it'll depend on what kind of form it is. Because if we're talking like the Incredible Hulk TV show, that'd be really hard to just cover the whole thing in an hour.
Right. We could do a season and pull out some highlight episodes and such like that. So here's a suggestion. Why don't we have, since this is going up on May 11th, and Deadpool is coming out, when is Deadpool?
May something after that?
Is it May 18th?
I think it's 18th, yeah.
That's really soon. Okay, I was going to say, why don't they send their email requests in by Deadpool, and then we could do like an announcement of what all the different suggestions are and take a poll, vote for these things. But that seems like that's too much to do. So maybe not that. Send your emails. What do you think we should cover on these not comics episodes?
Yeah. Which movies are your favorite or your least favorite?
What do you want to hear?
Maybe least
soon?
favorite. Least favorite could be fun. Make us suffer. We have to talk about something horrible. I can't think of any off the top of my head that are really horrible, but like maybe the Dolph Lundgren Punisher or something like that, or the Salinger Captain America. That could be good. Italian Red Skull.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
One of those.
Thank you for not mentioning the new Fantastic Four film as something horrible, because I actually really like about half of that movie.
I haven't seen it, to be honest, so that'd be a fun one to do. So give me an excuse to watch it.
Yeah, I really like the front half of that movie, and the last act goes off the rails. But the front half is really good. The middle third is kind of good. The back act is a different film. But anyways, yeah. So send in your request to podcast@makeoursmarvel.com.
Yeah, I mean, this will be sporadic, like we said, when we feel like doing it. Deadpool 2 will definitely be next. And until then, tune into our regular episodes that come out each week.
Oh, yeah, because there's another episode up right now with this one, so you should go listen to that.
Yeah.
Go do that.
Good idea. Bye.